Welcome to day 6 of my 30 days of singing, and it's a Tuesday. Now, Tuesday in the little soprano world is Technique Tuesday. Now, what does that mean? It means that every Tuesday I post helpful tips about your vocal technique. And I like to do this via infographics. Infographics, I use Canva to make my infographics. I love doing it, and I've kind of got a brand thing going on, so I use specific colours, all kind of linked to my website. Just let me show you today's Technique Tuesday tip is all about this knotty problem of how we breathe. I would say from all of my investigations and encouraging people to come forward and make contact with me about their singing, if I ask the basic question about, well, what is it that you worry about most about your singing, it nearly always comes back to my breath control. And today's infographic, the tip that I'm sharing, this is what it says. It says, every intake of breath is another chance to get together our alignment of energy. Think of the breath take and the opening of the throat in readjusting to sing as one gesture. Vocal technique is a vast subject, and I know that lots of people who come to singing fairly fresh are somewhat daunted by the prospect of learning how to sing and thinking that it's a very complex process. Well, it is and it isn't. It's a real paradox. Good singing becomes more of a kind of response. If you've watched other videos in this 30 days of singing, you will hear me talk about neuroplasticity. And on a very basic level, this is what happens when you're learning a new skill, say singing, could be playing the piano, could be playing golf, could be riding a horse. There are various things which are triggered early on. There are chemicals in the brain which are stimulated when we're learning something new. Okay, and that kind of provides us with a short-term way of learning. So it's a skill, and if we do it, 2 days, 3 days in a row, you'll feel the benefit after 2 or 3 days and come back and think, oh yes, I remember how I did this. I can feel some improvement. But if you leave it for, say, a week and don't do anything, maybe you'll come back and think, why can't I do that thing anymore? Well, that's because the chemical changes that you are creating when you're learning, at the beginning of learning, are not sufficient to sort of stay and become what is the next stage, which is then a structure. Because these little chemicals, these neurons in the brain, they start to talk to each other and provide and start to grow and create pathways of learning, so that when you then, maybe a year or two down the track, you start to think, oh yeah, I don't think about that anymore. All right, so I'm learning. My learning curve is changing. All right, so you're doing more of the same things. So let's just liken this to singing. Let's say you've always had a bit of an issue with the way in which you allow the air in when you breathe. But with continued and repeated and guided mentoring of how, what you're actually looking like, how you're actually doing it, getting some feedback, which this is the whole point of my Virtually Vocalese mentoring group. Over time, those habits or your way of doing that thing changes. And then that leads very nicely towards the final stage, or the final, but what we're aiming for in this idea of neuroplasticity is the function, so that suddenly, without thinking, you can pick up a piece of music, hear the introduction, get ready to start singing, and all of the right triggers that I'm talking about in my vocal technique tips of the day start to come into play. Okay, and that is the ultimate goal, and that's the whole point of me sharing these vocal technique tips every Tuesday, because what I'm hoping is that people who are interested enough, devoted enough, curious enough will start to think about some of these things that I'm talking about and want to find out more. Okay, so that's it for day 6. More tomorrow. No idea what that's going to be, but I'm really enjoying the challenge of finding true value and sharing it with you. So more again tomorrow. Bye for now.